The year was 1977, and it was the peak of the UAP phenomenon. But the incident in Dover, Massachusetts didn't involve flashing lights or massive ships. It involved a small, naked, quiet creature that shouldn't have been able to walk. Project Bulkhead is the intelligence designation. The file is a crucial study in anatomical viability. This creature, approximately 3.5 feet tall, was physically designed to fail. Yet it moved, watched, and emitted a continuous high frequency sound. The witnesses weren't just shocked, they were confronting a being that violated their entire understanding of life on Earth. Today, using 8 highly specific declassified intelligence memos filed under the CIA RDP 80 Contact Humanoid series, we undertake the complete investigation into Project Bullcut. We're going to determine if this terrifying figure was a physical survivor or perhaps a psychological projection. The sightings were tightly clustered in Dover over a 24-hour period, lending geographical credibility to the phenomenon. Crucially, the witnesses all noted that the creature had unique posture. It was often seen squatting or resting on all 4 limbs, but it stood upright whenever it was startled. Its bipedal locomotion was described as jerky and unnatural, as if its long, thin limbs were barely capable of supporting its massive head. An FBI analysis focused on this highly abnormal posture and movement. This is a quote from 1977 from the FBI local contact assessment in regards to locomotion. Here's the quote. The entity's movement profile is defined by a low center of gravity, non-conventional bipedal gait combined with a 4-limb resting squat posture. This suggests a survival strategy compensating for the physiological stress imposed by the extreme cranial mass and the inherent instability of the observed thin-limbed structure. End quote. Intelligence analysis were tasked with finding a terrestrial analog. The only known terrestrial condition producing a massive cranial structure is when you have water on the brain. This is one of the things that they hypothesized could have been the cause of the massive cranial structure. This became the pathological mimicry theory. Was the creature a terrestrial animal suffering from an extreme condition? This was discarded due to the glowing eyes and the bipedal stance. Furthermore, a crucial data point was the creature's complete lack of equipment. No clothing, no tools, no visible sensory or weaponry. It was purely biological. A CIA RDP 80 Contact Humanoid memo addresses the strategic significance of the entity's nakedness. This is about the lack of technology analysis. It's a 1978 CIA quote, the entity's observed state, entirely biological with no visible clothing tools or support mechanisms, is a high variance data point. It either confirms a primitive non-technological origin or a profound level of biological integration, where all necessary survival technology is internal, forcing the analysis to remain purely within the biological/paranormal classification matrix. End quote. The injured extraterrestrial hypothesis was strongly supported by the creature's continuous high-frequency warble. Analysts had to consider that this was not a sound of biological distress, but an emergency beacon. If the creature was stranded, its low-power sound could have been an automated signal sent on a high-frequency band designed to be heard by a passing ship, not necessarily by human ears. A DIA technical assessment focused on the acoustic data. This is a quote from their acoustic data analysis in 1979. Quote, the pulse non-harmonic nature of the entity's vocalization signature is inconsistent with mammalian distress. Spectral analysis suggests the acoustic pattern shares characteristics with low-power automated distress beacons in the high-frequency spectrum, strongly suggesting a mission failure and a coded signal for non-terrestrial retrieval. End quote. The Dover demon's unique skin texture, the pale, rough peach fuzz, was analyzed as a sign of catastrophic biological failure upon entering our atmosphere. The skin may have been rapidly shedding or suffering from a high degree of cellular breakdown due to incompatible pressure, temperature, or chemical composition in our environment. The This supported the theory that the creature was not meant to spend a long time on Earth. A CIA pathology memo detailed the probable cause. This is from 1980. It is listed in the CIA as RDP-80 exposure pathology. Quote, the reported abnormalities strongly suggest acute atmospheric exposure trauma, such as the rough, discolored texture. The skin pathology is inconsistent with biological material rapidly decomposing or undergoing radical protective mutation due to a failure in its native environmental filtration system. End quote. The high strangeness theory holds that the Dover demon was a thought form manifestation. The creature appeared during a period of massive UAP media saturation, particularly surrounding the release of films and books detailing humanoid encounters. The entity's bizarre, non-viable anatomy could be explained because it was never designed by evolution. It was designed by the human imagination, making it a pure conduct of collective subconscious anxiety. An O&I analysis emphasized the non-physical origin. This is from 1981. Quote, given the entity's anatomical non-viability and transient nature, the most parsimonious, I don't think I'm pronouncing that right, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go back. Given the entity's anatomical non-viability and transient nature, the most parsimonious hypothesis is the localized cohesive thought form. The morphology is a reflection of regional subconscious expectations regarding non-terrestrial life, manifesting briefly in an area of high civilian psychological focus. End quote. The operational failure in Dover was primarily one of media management. The FBI and CIA were forced to assume an advisory role to local law enforcement, dictating the official media narrative to control the expulsion of contact reports. The primary directive was to subtly discredit the witnesses or provide plausible, if weak, conventional explanations. Perhaps it was a moose calf or a distorted house cat. The goal was not to hide the event, but to make it ridiculous enough to stop external investigations. A CIA advisory memo detailed the media control strategy. This is from CIA RDP 80. This is the Media Advisory 1982 quote. Quote, witnesses should not be forcibly silenced, but their testimony must be diluted through the dissemination of low probability conventional attribution narratives, e.g. misidentification of common animals. The objective is to achieve a high skepticism index in the public sphere to prevent uncontained panic and external investigation. End quote. Project Bullcut remains a file that defines the fine line between the physical and the psychological. The creature with the bulbous head was terrifying, but its greatest threat was what it forced us to admit about the limits of our own biology. We've covered the silent brief contact of the injured humanoid. Now we dive into the classic high-intensity siege-like encounter where multiple entities surrounded a single family in a terrifying hours-long confrontation. Next time we're pivoting to a massive high-density contact file, Project Siege, the USAF and FBI analysis of the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter in Kentucky in 1955. We will analyze the military and local intelligence reports on the family's terrifying accounts of being surrounded and assaulted by numerous small metallic-skinned entities. We'll use the USAF, Project Blue Book, FBI contact tactical memos to assess the core question: were the goblins a coordinated, aggressive extraterrestrial assault force, or was the entire siege a terrifying example of mass localized hysteria triggered by a meteorite and regional fear? The documented truth of Project Bullcut proves that the biggest mysteries often come in the smallest packages, and if this deep dive into the archives has captured your focus, your support is vital as we investigate the ultimate siege encounter. I do have one more quote. This is the final contact classification from the CIA in 1981, quote, the Dover entity is conclusively classified as a non-conventional biological anomaly due to anatomical impossibility under 1 G terrestrial gravity. The incident is logged as a low-impact contact, requiring continued longitudinal tracking of regional UAP activity as a potential source vector for the entity's brief appearance End quote. I'll see you in the archives.